going to talk to you about 5 tips to effective writing, which will help you with any of the essays that you are writing this year. Number 1, always write in complete sentences. A sentence in English is considered complete when both of these terms are represented: the noun, the subject of the sentence, the thing that you are writing about on one hand, and the verb, the action of the sentence, the thing you have to say about the thing that you are writing about. You need to make sure you have a subject and a verb. A subject is typically a noun. Take a person, Sheila. A verb's an action that they do. Reads. That's a complete sentence. Sheila reads. You need to make sure both of those are in each sentence that you are writing. The structure of written communication itself follows a similar structure. You introduce a subject for consideration, and then you say something about it. Whenever a writer, and in the English language, is at a loss for what to say next, she can always ask herself the following 2 questions: what am I writing about? And what do I have to say about it? The answer to the first question will provide the first half of the sentence, subject. And the answer to the second question will provide the second half, the verb or the action it does. When writing flows well, it is in part because the stable rhythm of sentences as they move from subject phrases to verb phrases creates a forward momentum. A sentence fragment, a sentence that lacks either a subject or a verb, disrupts this momentum and leaves a dangling thought. A subject that doesn't do anything, or an action that's not done by anyone. That disrupts the forward movement of both writing and thinking. Writers will sometimes use fragments deliberately because of their interesting rhetorical effects, but in almost all cases, complete sentences are essential to effective communication. Always begin with an introduction and end with a conclusion. The first step in this process is obviously coming to the awareness that it is something that merits paying attention to. In this stage of attention, you are not particularly concerned with the details of whatever is pulling at your attention. The dominant principle of this stage is some kind of intellectual or emotional connection making. You may not be entirely sure exactly what you are looking at or exactly why you are looking at it, but you get a sense that there will be some value gained by taking the time to pause and look more closely. In the second stage, you start to collect the details, to look for interrelationships, and to develop more intricate ideas about what this thing is that has captured your attention. You examine, analyze, discriminate, and evaluate, and you gather whatever information there is to cull from the act of paying attention. Finally, there is a moment where you decide to stop paying attention. This stage is frequently overlooked, but it's an important part of the process, arguably the most important part. In this stage, you conclude that you have adequately examined whatever it is that you are paying attention to. You speculate on what you have learned from the encounter, and you consider what you could take away from these reflections to apply to future acts of attention paying. Obviously, these 3 stages correspond to the stages of a typical academic essay. You have your introduction, the body, and the conclusion. But writing of any kind also requires negotiating all 3 stages of this cognitive arc. Whether you are writing an email, an opera, or a blog post, you always have to take time to introduce your topic in a way that allows readers to make a connection with what you intend to write about. And then as you come to the end, provide readers with some final thoughts about what it has all meant. Neglecting either of these bookends is likely to compromise the clarity of any piece of writing. You need to use paragraphs to distinguish different parts of your essay. In the same way that clear writing uses complete sentences to develop ideas, larger units of writing use paragraphs to organize related sentences into a larger block of meaning. It's interrelated here, they're connected. Our sentences do it, our paragraphs do it, our essay is going to do it. These larger blocks of meaning can then build on one another to create an infinite variety of complex conceptual structures. When you are first sitting down to do any kind of writing project, A useful first step is to develop a list of things you have to say about your subject. Brainstorming a list of observations will probably generate some ideas that are closely related to one another and other ideas that branch out in their own direction. You will see that some ideas are naturally nested within other ideas, and that what might first seem like two different ideas are actually two different ways of saying the same thing. Things like concept webs or other graphic organizers can help you find natural patterns that exist within the different ideas that you have been given on a topic. You can think of paragraphs of buckets that will help you sort through this complexity. Label your buckets: ideas related to X, ideas related to Y, ideas related to Z. Um, and then try to see if you can fit all or most of the best ideas into a specific number of those buckets. When you turn to writing the body of your writing project, the buckets will supply you with content for your paragraphs. And these paragraphs provide a framework for your writing project. Thinking of your subject in terms of paragraphs helps you establish an outline for your writing project, and it helps the reader identify connections among the different ideas you include in the piece of writing. I always tell my students, if you're the type of writer who feels like your paragraphs are connecting to each other and that you have one idea here and then another one scattered down there, using a graphic organizer or an outline is the most successful thing you can do. It really blocks it out. This information is going here. This information is going in this part. And then when you have all that information organized, you know what you're going to write about. You look at this organizer and say, okay, body paragraph one has X, Y, and Z in it. Now I write about that. Body paragraph two didn't have X, Y, and Z. It has A, B, and C. So you pull out that information and you plug it into the right paragraph. Um, I highly, highly recommend outlines and graphic organizers to help you organize your thoughts and then organize your writing. Okay, always begin with a topic sentence and end with a concluding sentence. Every paragraph needs to have a topic and then needs something to wrap it all up, just like every paper needs that introduction and then needs a conclusion to wrap it up. In the same way that the three stages of the act of paying attention to something inform the structure of a piece of writing, they also inform the structure of the individual units of a piece of writing, particularly paragraphs. A paragraph is not simply a group of sentences stuck together by a paragraph break. A paragraph has its own kind of grammar, which obeys the same principle as the grammar of a sentence. In the sentence, the subject does something, while in the paragraph, a topic sentence, the first sentence of the paragraph, introduces a thought or a main idea. And then the rest of the paragraph does something with that main idea. The body of the paragraph fulfills the same function on the paragraph level that the body of an essay fulfills at the essay level. It may supply specific examples of the idea expressed in the topic sentence. It may provide supporting arguments defending the claim made in the topic sentence, or it may elaborate the topic sentence claim with a more detailed examination of the subject. Finally, when the sequence of statements following from the topic sentence has unfolded, a well-written paragraph concludes with a sentence or two that provides some element of closure to the paragraph itself. A strong paragraph ending sentence ties together the paragraph's elements into a final statement that identifies the key takeaway points from the paragraph. Thinking about the beginning, middle, end structure of your paragraphs can help guide you through the process of writing the body of any piece of writing, even telling you on a sentence by sentence level of exactly how to proceed. Also, begin with the most general information and then end with the most specific. This is a rule that often gets overlooked when, if you feel like you're trying to fill up an essay and you're plugging as much information in as you can. Part of it's finding that information and figuring out where it goes in the essay. But the other part of it, it definitely ties into looking at your essay and making sure that you're starting with the general and that there's an order to your paragraphs. Your body paragraphs should follow some kind of organized order where it's general to specific. Unlike thinking, writing, and reading, Unlike thinking, writing and reading are both linear processes. The structure of your brain makes it so that any given thought you ever had is simultaneously interlaced with hundreds and millions of other thoughts all at the same time. Writing, however, works one sentence at a time. Whenever you decide you have two things to say, the question immediately presents itself. Which one should you say first? And which one should you say second? Since you can't say them both at the same time. A professional or academic piece of writing will typically have dozens or even hundreds of individual ideas included in it. And the whole system of complete sentences arranged into structured paragraph is designed to keep all of this content in a predictable and intelligible sequence. Part of writing effectively is knowing how to exploit the one thing at a timeness of writing to foster engagement within a reader by creating dramatic effects, an air of suspense, a feeling, a feeling of building to a climax, or a sense of solving a mystery. These are all things that we're able to do with our words. A good storyteller sets the stage, introduces the main characters, and gets the boring stuff out of the way right at the outset so that they can move on to the more dramatic and surprising parts of the story. Once you identify the main ideas in a piece of writing, you can think about how to arrange them so that they lead away from the more mundane and obvious observation and towards the more precise, original, or nuanced points. There's no standard metric for evaluating how your own ideas fall across this kind of continuum. You simply have to use your own judgment and intuition. The more carefully you consider the issue of the arrangement of your ideas into a linear sequence, the more likely you will be both to communicate successfully and write intelligently. So, hopefully, as you sit down to write, you can think of these 5 points and it will help you to organize all your thoughts across writing a successful essay. Thanks for watching.